Welcome back everyone to another episode of the Doom series, and in this video we are going to learn about texturing of two-sided line defs. So I have already implemented that since the code was pretty similar to the solid walls but just a few differences. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the end here. So here you can see we are handling the solid walls. So up here we are going to handle the other walls. Now for this we are going to go to the start of this, and thing I have changed is that first of all I have added a new side def pointer to the front side def so that we can access it easier, because the front side def is the one that matters when we are setting the texture and everything. So we are going to add that side def here, and now you can see that we have got all of this. So as you can see, we have made a scope here. So the reason I have made a scope inside of this for loop is because so that we can separate our floor and ceiling nodes, and we can use more concise names. Otherwise we'll have to make unique names for this texture width and texture height, and it would kind of get annoying. So we just do it this way, which makes sure that we have got a unique name. So instead of you having floor 0 through floor 3, we are going to now have just P0, P1, P2 and P3. So we can just do the stuff a lot easier. Anyways, you can see that we set our points here like this. So we set the points just like we were doing earlier, and now we calculate our well, a couple of things basically. So the first thing, two things we calculate are the x and y, which we calculate just like we were doing that earlier, and then the width and height as well. One important thing is that we take the absolute value of the height. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that our height is always positive, because sometimes the back sector might be lower than the front sector. In that case we don't want it to go wrong, so we just take the absolute value. And after this you can see that we scale the points afterwards, so we don't need to scale, we need to make sure we get the width and height first and then scale the points. Anyways, now here we are going to just get the width and height like we were doing earlier. The only difference is that this time we are using the lower texture of the side, because this is a floor node. We need to make sure we use the lower texture. And then we get the w and s variable as width and height divided by the texture coordinates, and then the x offset and the y offset similarly. Now for the pegging logic it's a bit different. So you can see that if the lower unpacked flag is set on two-sided line def, that means by default it's pegged to the highest floor. So we need to change it so that it's pegged to the lowest floor. So for that we actually need to not lowest floor, we need to change it so that it is pegged to the highest ceiling. So our texture will be drawn as if it began at the highest ceiling and then continued downwards. That's how it will be drawn. So because of that we can't just use the height variable, because this is just floor. We want to use ceiling to floor. So for that we get our front sector ceiling, we subtract from that our back sector floor, divide that by the texture height and add that to our offset. And then the texture coordinates and the vertices are calculated in the same way. We set the floor node's texture to wall texture side def lower, because this is a lower texture. After that we set our draw node, and we create a ceiling node, and then we have got basically another scope here so that we can have the same variable declarations again. So we are going to have all of those stuff, and the only thing we change is that now of course it's ceiling. And another thing is that now we take the absolute value, but then we actually make it negative. So now for the height, because of the way we have organized our engine and vertices, we need to make sure that our height for the ceiling node or the upper node is always negative. So we need to make sure that the upper part of the wall, the height needs to be negative in order to get the textures correctly, or else the textures will be upside down. While for the floor node it needs to be positive. Then we set the texture width and texture height, and now of course we use the side def upper texture instead of using the side def lower texture. Anyways, now we go ahead and get the width and height and the offsets, and this time we check for the upper unpacked flag. So you can see that this is the lower unpacked flag is hex 10, while the upper unpacked flag is hex 8. So we get the upper unpacked flag. If that is set, we just need to take our y offset and subtract this height from it. The reason we do this negative and do it this way is because well, we need to make sure that it is pegged to the correct ceiling. So by default it is pegged to the lowest ceiling. So we need to, if we want it to be pegged to the highest ceiling, then we use upper unpegged. So for that we need to just subtract the height from this. It should get it to be pegged to the top ceiling, and then we go ahead and calculate the texture coordinates, and then set the vertices and create the mesh and set the texture here. And yeah, that's pretty much all we need to do, and that should actually get all the texture coordinates correctly. So if I run this, you can see that if I go here, you can see that we get all of the textures here. This is correct, and we have got the top textures. As you can see, they are looking correctly as well. And you can see this door is also actually, by the way, an upper texture, and it's looking correctly as well as these. You can see these are looking quite good. And an easy way to check if your alignment is correct by looking at windows. So you can see that the top and bottom both sides match, so you know the window is seamless. It doesn't seem like the texture coordinates are off, so that means that this is basically working quite well. So yeah guys, this is pretty much it for this video, and in the next video we are gonna fix a couple of bugs with our texture loading code, and then we are going to move on to integrating lights, because you know, we switched to the different workflow, but now the lights are not working, so we need to have another way apart from uniforms to go, you know, apply the lights, because we can't set the uniforms, so we need to pass that along the vertex data. Anyways guys, we are gonna do that stuff in the next video. Stay tuned for that. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and share this video with other people, and I'll see you in the next one.